Well, welcome back to the Daring. Continuing now with scope management. The first process, plan scope management. So really when we're planning, we want to consider the business requirements that are stated and real business requirements. Sometimes there's a gap, and great plan scope management activities going to help close the gap. For example, where I work, we plan and plan and plan. I work in IT infrastructure doing IT security on the internal worker side, not the external outward-facing customer side. And in that, many of the projects involve other functions, other business units like networking or domain services, architectural review, data centers, etc. Well, the current project we're working on, we continue to collect requirements from the networking folks, yet they don't give them, or I'm not sure if they know, or is it so stovepiped? I'm not a networking expert. I just know that it seems like every other week we turn around, there's a new requirement coming out of it. So there's the business requirements and the real requirements, and we want to try and close that gap. Plan project management is going to do that through plan scope management, okay, which is going to tell us how we are going to do the project and product scope, how they're defined, validated, and controlled once we, and this process is performed once or can be done many times. Okay. Now, I would like to point out for the outputs, go right to the outputs, plan scope management. I mentioned I have two major outputs. One is the scope management plan, that would be expected. And the other one is the requirements management plan. And it's a razor's thin difference between the two, but the differences are important. Okay? And we're going to go into those. Let's start with the inputs. The charter is an expected input because the high-level scope, the high-level project description, and success criteria were listed in that charter. Also the project plan, including a description of the life cycles and the development approach. Are we going to do this project according to waterfall or predictive project management, which is much more detailed planning up front, or are we going to do it according to a more agile approach? And then, of course, EEFs and OPAs. Now, in addition, we have the tools of project management, expert judgment being one of them. Remember, I've said many times, individuals or groups, and specialized knowledge. Those words should go with it. So, in expert judgment, talk to people who have done previous projects that are similar, or maybe in a similar industry or company, if it's possible. And then, of course, data analysis is a great tool. This is really, according to the PMI and the PMBOK guide, alternatives analysis. When I hear alternatives, it's what are the various ways that I can collect the requirements? What are my courses of action, interviews, or document reviews, or even Delphi technique. Delphi technique is a term not used in the current PMBOK guide, but I think it's very valuable. It was in PMBOK guide versions 5 and 4. And it's really, for example, I might do survey of experts, and I might send it out to experts because evidence has shown that experts are much more likely to give you an honest, clear, complete answer when asked individually. Well, if you ask a group of experts at the same time while they're with each other, it is shown by research that many of them are going to withhold their views or not be as forceful or clear in their approach for fear of a comment from their peers. So the Delphi technique, you might use a questionnaire, send it to experts, assure its anonymity for them, collect the inputs, group the responses, send it back out for them to confirm that they agree, and that way you achieve consensus. A very valuable way to analyze data. And then meetings, of course, we have already talked about. Okay, then I'm going to have my outputs, my scope management plan, which is my typical how the scope will be defined, controlled, and validated. And most management plans are about control. Okay, this is the typical plan, how to define, develop, and control the scope. The requirements management plan is similar but a little different. It's also how, remember, every requirements management plan is about how I'm going to do something, but it's how the project and products will be analyzed and prioritized. Analyzed, documented, and prioritized to ensure the requirements are met. Some even refer to this as a business analysis plan. And remember, we talked about in the last lecture, a business analyst often runs this for you, or a BA, as it's sometimes called. So that makes sense. So I'm going to trace, track, prioritize the requirements, and they'll even have some metrics as part of that. Now I just broke down, of course, a scope management plan likely be several pages or longer on a major project. But I just wanted to see how simple it is. You define the processes, remember it's how I'm going to do something. The processes, the roles and responsibilities, and what tools, templates, and historical data. This is a common define it, create it, and control it. The bottom line is, you see at the very bottom of the slide, scope management plan is focused on defining and controlling the scope, as opposed to a requirements management plan, which again will have the processes listed that involve requirements management, the roles and responsibilities and templates, historical data and tools. Those aren't different. What is different is this time it's about analysis, documenting, and prioritizing requirements. Why would I prioritize requirements? Because likely I'm going to collect more requirements than I'm budgeted for, or than my schedule allows for, or that is outside of what was defined in the charter success criteria. There's going to come a time where I tell stakeholders, some of them, that's a great idea or a good requirement, but is not really part of the charter or some other formal document or a government regulation. Hence, won't be part of this project. So I'm going to track the decisions on the requirements and trace the ones that are applicable to completion. Okay, that is it for plan scope management. Thank you.